If you're thinking about moving to Virginia Beach, I'm here to tell you that you might not want to. Here are the reasons why coming up. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalone and I'm a real estate agent in the Hampton Roads area that goes from Virginia Beach all the way through Williamsburg, and I do videos every week about living and moving to the area. So today I'm going to talk to you about a few things that I think you really need to know now before you make your final decision about moving to Virginia Beach at all, and I think these might change your perceptions moving forward. So number one is the real estate prices. Now we're in 2022, the market's gone up quite a bit in other places, but one of the reasons why people have been moving to Virginia Beach is because it has been more affordable. You can get houses in the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 price range that you might in other places pay, 10, 20, 50 or more percent more for that same kind of house. And you can get the lifestyle, the beach access. Lots of great reasons to move here, but also the biggest reason, or one of the biggest reasons, was because it was cheaper. Well, that has since changed. The median sales price right now in Virginia Beach is over $400,000, which never even was close to that any time before or prior until the last year or two. And so prices have changed a lot. It's not that it's super expensive, but if you're coming here because it's super cheap, I'm here to tell you that things are changing and the prices in the specific city of Virginia Beach have gone up, especially because of the school districts that they are in. Now, the reason why real estate getting expensive matters is because you might find that the area, the style of neighborhood that you want might be a bit more expensive now than what you may have expected, which changes your lifestyle, which changes what the atmosphere is around you and what the areas are going to be like that you're going to be living in. You might find that paying more might be what you need to get the neighborhood style that you want. So if you want to move to Hampton Roads or the area around Virginia Beach, but you don't want to live in Virginia Beach because it's too expensive, you can pivot to other cities like Norfolk, Portsmouth, Suffolk, some parts of Chesapeake, although that's getting expensive too, or the peninsula of the Hampton Roads area as well. But Virginia Beach itself is getting more expensive, and I don't think it's going to be changing too much going forward. The number two is the areas around here, it's kind of like a quilt. What does that mean? The area is a very old area. You've got houses here in the 60s, 50s, 40s. First Landing State Park, for goodness sakes, is on the northeastern corner of Virginia Beach. That's where the settlers landed back in the 1600s. So this is a very old and historic area. Well, because of that, you have a lot of areas that were built like in different decades. The 30s and 40s and 50s, and the military bases and houses that were near there, and strip malls that were built back in the 40s, back in the 50s and 60s. Then you've got, as more growth happened, the 70s, 80s, Virginia Beach started getting more houses, more townhouses, and newer strip malls and places to shop and restaurants back then. Well then, since then, as time has changed, it's been hard to find newer areas to build more construction, build more shops and restaurants in. So the vibe of the area is different based on where you live in Virginia Beach and Hampton Roads, because you've got large areas that were built in different time periods, and then you've got renovated parts of those areas that have changed in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, but it's all in the middle of an older area. It's an older city. So it feels like that. It feels like that quilt kind of thing where you've got patches of old, patches of new, things being changed over. Unless you go in the farther southern parts of Virginia Beach, like Pungo or just South Virginia Beach, or into South Chesapeake, you're gonna find the same things like 80s, 90s areas that were built up in the 80s and 90s, or areas before then that were built in the 60s or the 50s and 40s, where you've got a whole different vibe. There are some areas in the country where you've got a lot of new stuff. Master plan communities all over the place. All new outdoor shopping areas, new restaurants, all that stuff. Now there are elements of all of that here, but it's not as widespread across the entire area because it's such an old area that has been redeveloped over time. So if you're coming here because it's like, oh, a beach town, all this new stuff, that's part of what this area is, but it's not exactly what this area is, and I think you really need to come here at least once to get a feel of what it's like before you decide about moving to Virginia Beach or Hampton Roads in general. That leads to an interesting one, which is allergies. So I know so many people that have grown up here, people that have moved here, and everybody complains about the pollen and about their allergies. And I say going into the late February, March time period, I know so many people that have problems with their sinuses, pressure buildup. I do know that a lot of people deal with this. I don't as much necessarily myself, but I've realized that over the last few years, I've even noticed some effects in my sinuses, and I'm realizing that maybe over the course of my life, I've had allergy issues and didn't even know that's what it was because I was so used to it for the duration of my life. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation, which is a real thing I found out, they ranked Virginia Beach as number 8 in the entire country of worst places for allergies. That was in 2011. Now it's gotten better in 2022. They're ranked, I think, in the 50s now, so it's gotten better. But it does not mean that we're devoid of allergy concerns. So if we're talking about a national publication that's focusing on allergies, saying that we have some issues, just keep that in mind and be prepared for that if you're moving to Virginia Beach. When some people, when they leave Virginia Beach, their sinuses get better. And I know that some people, when they get here, getting acclimated to this area can be difficult. My wife, for example, moved here. It was a very significant process to get acclimated to the atmosphere in this area. So please make sure that if you do have allergy problems, know that going into it, because tree pollen primarily, it can get pretty significant, especially in February through like June-ish. That leads me to the next one, which is similar, which is humidity. June, July, August, and September for humidity in Virginia Beach and all through Hampton Roads is really severe. Now, if you go to places like Texas, like South Texas, or some parts of Florida, Louisiana, it's not that bad. And if you look on bestplaces.net has a great ranking system that shows humidity levels, and Virginia Beach, compared to a lot of other larger or medium-sized cities, are relatively middle of the pack. You know, we're 50 on this list that bestplaces.net has, and so it's not awful. But if you're coming here because you're like, hey, I'm going to the beach, I'm gonna get this nice, like, crisp air, well, it's gonna be very humid for several months, and the moisture content in the area in general is very high, regardless of the time of year, which leads to termite moisture issues with houses, which is a whole separate thing. But just know that the moisture content in the air is very high, and it can lead to the hot summer months. It can be very miserable. What solutions we have? I would say stay inside. Air conditioning is very important. Otherwise, you just gotta deal with it. Honestly, that's what I've done my whole life. If you go from Virginia Beach, go to Williamsburg, go to Newport News, they're all gonna be pretty rough. So just expect that going in. I think you'll be fine. Now, the reward for dealing with the summer months is that you have a real nice October usually, and also a nice May. That leads to the next one, which is the roads are awfully confusing. Virginia Beach itself has so many parts of the area. The roads wind and they turn around, and you've got stoplights everywhere, and you've got strip malls that look the same as other strip malls, and so everything kind of looks the same in a lot of places. And if you're not used to it, it can easily be confusing. You can get lost. Like I've mentioned this in other videos, that I get lost in the middle of Virginia Beach sometimes based on how the roads are, and I've been here my whole life in the whole Hampton Roads area. So most of the area does not work in a grid system. The only area that mainly does is little parts of Chesapeake, but mainly Norfolk, downtown Norfolk, and parts of Ghent, and those areas on the west side of Norfolk. Otherwise, you got a bunch of winding roads all over the place, and it can be very confusing, and it can be also difficult traffic-wise, because the road systems going off onto the interstates can back up a lot, just because these roads weren't designed for so many people, which is getting better now. The construction is increasing, or has increased, but it's gonna still take a few years to get totally set based on the new amount of people that are living here. And the next one is, it's a high turnover rate of people that come in and go out. I grew up here and built so many friendships that have since turned into long distance friendships, because people that come here military-wise, they leave 3-4 years. You know, you gotta kind of be ready for that, because it's such a high military area. You have almost 100,000 people that live here that are in the military in some form or fashion, and 14,000 plus that transition out of the military in some form every year. And so you've got a lot of change, lots of transitions for people's lives, and so some people stay and they retire, some people love it here and end up just staying anyway, but then a lot of people do leave. So just be ready for the idea that a lot of people you know might be leaving in the next few years for various military related reasons or other reasons. So that does help with the resale value of your house, because you'll find more people will be coming in and out pretty frequently. But at the same time, as far as relationally speaking, it can be kind of difficult. And for me personally, it has been hard for some of my friends that have left over time. I've just gotten used to that idea of people moving out of the area. So for more information about Virginia Beach or the areas around Virginia Beach, I've got more videos here you can check out. And if you have more questions about relocating to the area, I've got my contact information in the description. You can reach out at any point, and I'll do whatever I can to help you relocate to the area. And I will see you on the next video.